Welcome, everybody, to Dave's Corner Garage. We welcome you on Facebook Live, and you can go to facebook.com/Dave's Corner Garage, and you will see us. We have a great one-hour show for you with a great panel of automotive experts, and we're going to turn it over to Dave Redinger, who hosts the show, and he'll introduce everybody. We invite you down for any questions, no matter where you are at the MTCC, and we welcome any texts that you want to send in. Any questions that you have right now?
Hello!
There you go. Dave's got his oldest audience right now. Here's Dave Redinger. Go ahead, Dave.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. It's Dave's Corner Garage. We've actually been on the air on AM 740 19 years. So that's a long time for any radio show to be on the air. What we do is actually bring the experts down that are in the know. We'll give you honest answers to the questions you may have. So if you've got a question about buying a car, having a classic car that needs insurance, buying a newspaper from Norris over there. Lease Busters, is Andy's here from Lease Busters. If you want to get out of the lease, Andy will explain that to you. Trevor is here from Crown, who's one of our original sponsors, and I really got to thank you out loud. 19 years we've been together. We sold a lot of undercoating. And one of our newest sponsors is Car Generator. Jonathan is here from Car Generator's actual inventor. Jonathan was on Dragon's Den. If you notice his shirt where it says Dragon's Den, he actually got 2 dragons to help him with his business. So we'll talk about Car Generator. Trevor is from Crown Body Maintenance. It's a company that prevents your car from corroding. And actually, it's such a green product that your car will actually last forever. I've been in the car business for almost 50 years, and I've thrown cars away because the engines went, but the bodies were still in great condition. Trevor, how's the afternoon?
Howdy, David.
So here's a question for you. When you apply Crown and you actually install the product, you're actually drilling holes in the cars. And some people don't understand why. Please tell us.
Yeah. In many cases, the only proper way to access all of the body panels is to provide additional holes. So probably the biggest question we get is, well, why do you drill holes when there are factory holes that are there? The fact is the factory holes are there for a couple of reasons. Usually it's to be able to facilitate certain wires that are run in there during the manufacturing process. Some of them use etching acids that are put in the vehicle, and they drain out of those holes. But they don't allow us to access all of the vehicle panels. And so because we put a lifetime warranty on the vehicle, we need to make sure that we can access it.
So you're actually, when you're buying a new car and I take it down to your store, you'll cover it for life against corrosion?
Yeah, if you come in within 30 days of your anniversary date, have it sprayed every year, you're going to get a locked-in price for the life of the vehicle, and we'll warranty it for the life of the vehicle.
What always amazes me is that it's not expensive. An average is what, $150 is an average spray?
$130.
$130. And a truck is what?
$149.
Right, because I've seen them do trucks. They actually remove the taillights to get inside the box. And I've seen them open the hoods and get under and drill holes. It's really a fascinating process. And it works because it locks off the oxygen, correct?
Yeah, the real key is that rust is caused by moisture. It's accelerated by salt. So this winter's a perfect example of the temperature change. The more moisture that's out there, the more metal will corrode. So what we're trying to do is to create a thin barrier to repel moisture. A little bit like when you when you lubricate your skin, you may put Vaseline or a lotion on it. What it's designed to do is to keep moisture in. Well, imagine Crown working just the opposite way to keep the moisture out.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier. There's some products like Kleenex where the product actually becomes the name of the service. And Crown is there. People just say, I'm going to have my car crowned.
Yeah. Well, when you've been around, since 1986, we've got a very good market in Ontario and continuing to grow. Probably our biggest challenge now is being able to keep up with the amount of work that we get, especially in the fall of the year.
Yeah, you were saying that you're so busy. Okay, let's quickly talk with Jonathan. Jonathan actually is an inventor. He invented a machine where if the power fails, you can run your house off your car. This little black box that's sitting next to him is actually the car generator. You open the hood, you plug it into your battery, and you can light up your house with it, run your furnace in the winter. Jonathan, you were on Dragon's Den.
I was. I was on Dragon's Den in October.
And this is, can I stand up?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, this is my product here. This was on Dragon's Den in October. And I need 2 volunteers from the audience, one that's 7 and one that's close to 70 or around 70.
ahead.
Anyone close to 7? Okay, I want to see. Can you lift that up? Cool.
Wow.
Excellent. Okay, who do we have that's close to 70? Anyone? Can you lift that up?
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go, John.
This cool gadget, I was on Dragon's Den in October. This cool gadget will power the essentials of your house in a blackout. So, quick question for the audience. Who here has a generator at home? Okay, who has a car? Right, there's your answer. So basically, when the power goes out of your car, and it will power the essentials of your house, your furnace, your fridge, take it camping, have fun with it, and when you're done, put it away and forget about it. It'll run for 50 to 70 hours, and it's cleaner than a generator. That's my thing.
Okay, kind of unique. It's a product that's available online at cargenerator.com, I think it is.
Yep.
Right,
Cargenerator.
cargenerator.com. And a lot of people have asked me, how long can your car run at idle? Well, I'll give you an example. Police cars never shut off. They're running all the time. Taxis running 24 hours a day. So a car can actually idle for 40 to 50 hours without doing any damage. And it actually uses what, 0.6 of a gallon, you were saying?
Yes, it actually uses a Honda 1,000-watt generator uses 0.19 of a gallon, and a subcompact car would use 0.16 of a gallon per hour. So uses about the same amount as running a generator, and that's why you can run this for 50 to 70 hours, even longer on a diesel if you need to.
Fascinating stuff. Okay, so let's talk about leasing. Andy is here from Lease Busters. This is a company that if you have a car that you're in the ditch or you want to get rid of it, you can't afford the lease, something's changed in your life, and stuff happens to good people, this is the company that you would actually deal with. Lease Busters, how does it work?
Hi, David. Thank you for having me here today. Quite easily, actually, with Lease Busters. If you have a lease that you want to get out of a vehicle, whether you're in a ditch or if, as Dave said, in the ditch, of course, or if you want to get out of a vehicle a lot earlier and get into something else, go to leasebusters.com and we'll help you by doing a free evaluation. We have about a 4 or 5 point evaluation process. We'll let you know if your vehicle will qualify for our website to help you do that.
So say, for example, you're buying a car and you're going to keep it for 10 years. In 10 years, that car is worth nothing. But if you lease a car, you could actually get 3 or 3.5 cars.
We like to recommend 5 times for 10 years. Every 2 years, you like to switch out your vehicles for your leases.
Okay.
So that way you have a lot more value, and it's a lot more value also for someone else taking over your lease. Every couple of years, you can get out of it a lot easier.
And you don't have any maintenance costs because under warranty, you don't really have any repairs to do.
That is
and
correct.
It's reliable, and it's the latest electronics.
No tire changes, no wiper blades, nothing.
Exactly. So I come to you, and how does it work? You have an expert come and look at the car?
You can call into the office. We're a national company, coast to coast, and we'll evaluate your lease for you. We have people in the office waiting right now. Actually, if anybody wants to call in, we'd be more than happy to help everybody out. And we evaluate your lease on the basis of what you have. Just have your lease agreement with you when you're calling in, and we can go through step by step.
Now, it's not just selling my lease. I want to buy a lease. Okay, I want something for 1.5 years because I'm going to be transferred out of the country and my company's going to move me out. Or I need a car for 6 months. Again, this is something that we can go to your site.
Absolutely. Before you know, you're going in to look, just to compare vehicles. You can go on our website. We have about 3,000 to 5,000 vehicles that are leases between commercial vehicles, trucks, and just regular, even EVs, hybrids, all kinds of vehicles that you can look at and compare them to you and what your needs are.
Okay, so it's called leasebusters.ca. Been around
.com. Leasebusters.com.
How long has the company
We've been around 29 years.
29 years.
29 years.
I got socks older than that. Okay, we're going to talk with Norris, and we initially were going to talk about the Hall of Fame.
We can talk about anything you want, Dave. You know that.
Go ahead. So, Norris, you just did the Hall of Fame. Jacques Villeneuve got in.
Well, I was going to say that the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame and the Auto Show have entered into a a working relationship this year that saw two things happen. The first thing was that the international launch, the worldwide launch of a Formula One team,
Right.
the Racing Point Montreal-owned Formula One team with a Montreal driver, Lance Stroll, that happened here at the Auto Show on Wednesday,
Right.
and it was through the Auto Show and the Hall of Fame. And the annual induction of the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame is going to take place during the week leading up to the Auto Show from this year going forward. So it's a really interesting time and an exciting time for both the Canadian International Auto Show and the Hall of Fame. Now, as you know, I also have things to do here at the
Go ahead.
Canadian International Auto Show. And, you know, it's absolutely marvelous because in addition to the 1,000 light trucks and cars and other vehicles that we have here at the Auto Show, we do have what we call extra added attractions. Last year, for example, we had the 50 years of Hot Wheels. We have a return of Art in the Automobile, which is a fabulous exhibit. We got the Lego Bugatti Chiron down there.
Which actually
this year.
runs. That little car runs.
That's right. Goes 10K an hour.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is that after they run it for about 100 yards, they have to take it away for 4 or 5 days to tighten it all up again.
Oh, God.
Because it doesn't, the springs and the everything else having to do with the ride is a little loose. But on Wednesday of this week, two significant things are going to happen. The Automobile Journalists of Canada are going to present their second round of awards to the industry. As you know, on Media Day, they named the Car and Utility Vehicle of the Year.
Right.
And the car was the Kia Stinger. The utility vehicle was the all-electric Jaguar I-Pace. First time that's happened to win a major award in the world. And this coming Wednesday, they are going to present their annual Innovation Awards. This is for the best advances in technology, safety, that sort of thing. And the best kept secret in Toronto, as far as I'm concerned, the University of Toronto has a transportation, safety, and transportation, what am I trying to say here? They do research into the future of mobility.
Okay.
And they're going to present an hour-and-a-half seminar on everything to do with mobility and transportation in the GTA going forward. And although they can't say who's going to pay for all of this, they're going to tell you exactly what is going to happen in the next 25 years.
How do we
it's going to
find
be
out
fascinating.
on the website?
And this is going to be on the website. This is going to be in the Toronto Star special section on Wednesday morning in the Toronto Star. And it's in the John Bassett Theatre, level 100 at noon. And so I invite anybody who's watching on Facebook, listening, that it's well worth attending. And if nothing else, you can rest your feet.
You know what's great about the show is it's so large, you actually could spend days here and still not see everything.
I think that to do it properly, you have to spend a couple of days.
Yeah, exactly
because, first of all, every manufacturer, you know, unlike other auto shows in North America, and that includes Chicago, Los Angeles, Detroit, who are missing manufacturers.
Yes.
Every manufacturer retailing their vehicles in Canada are here at this auto show. And that's pretty stupendous when you think about
Yeah.
it. And if you're going to spend half an hour at each exhibit to see what's going on, the advances being made in electricity, the advances being made in autonomous vehicles, which, to be honest with you, is scary because they're here now. They just haven't put them on the market. I was talking to the president of General Motors Canada yesterday. He's got a level 5 car that he drives around, and it's not ready to go on yet because they don't feel that the society is ready for it, but it's going to completely transform transportation and the automobile industry. But the fun part is Auto Exotica down at the level 100.
You have a friend has a few cars down there.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's the Devil's 16. If you haven't been down there to see it, go down and see it.
I heard they started it up the other
Every
day.
night between 7 and 10,
They'll fire
we
it
have a
up.
feeture called Light Up the Night. And let me tell you, you might be deaf for 10 minutes, but it's well worth the trip down there.
Let me go to Scott. Okay, OMVIC. OMVIC is the Ontario Motor Vehicle Industry Council. And you can say that all in one word. The idea was back in the 70s, nobody regulated the used car industry, and so they brought out the Used Car Dealers Act, and that has morphed into OMVIC, which we have today. And Scott's here to talk about the dangers of buying a vehicle. And one of the things is all-in pricing. This is what you're pushing right now, is that the price that's advertised is...
So a price, when a dealer places an ad with a price in it, that price must include all fees and charges the dealer intends to collect from a consumer. The only thing that can be excluded is HST and licensing. And when I say licensing, I refer to the actual cost of licensing to put plates on the car, transfer ownership, things like that. But absolutely, so OMVIC, as you said, quite a mouthful when you read it all out. So we're better known as Ontario's vehicle sales regulator, and we've been here since 1997. We've enforced 2 different drafts of the legislation, and our latest one was put into force in 2010. And that's where all-in price advertising came in. And actually, OMVIC last year launched a brand new campaign called Take a Picture. And we encourage consumers to go to the dealership's website, look in the newspaper, and take a picture of the dealer's ad and bring it with them to their dealer to ensure that they're getting the all-in advertised price.
Now, I know that you have mystery shoppers, and I know that you have regulations. Are you getting 100% the dealers complying? I guess that's the word I'm looking for. 100% complying, or not?
No, that's a good question, Dave. In fact, we have conducted mystery shopping, and the results are quite unfortunate. Over 50% of dealers, based on our mystery shop results, are charging above the advertised price. The highest we saw was in GTA at about $13,000. And that goes back to my point a moment ago, where we really want to empower consumers, give consumers a tool to put them in the driving seat and get that all-in price they deserve. We do have a lot of enforcement activity at OMVIC. Last year, we issued 30 notices of discipline, which will cover things like all-in price advertising.
Right.
But especially now, we really want to empower the consumer to be able to get that all-in price.
So if they're advertising price, that they can put anything in that price that they want, as long as that's the one I'm offering to you.
Absolutely. So we actually encourage dealers. So when you go into a dealership, you'll be presented with a contract, a bill of sale, depending on the language they use. And we encourage dealers to actually list every single fee that's built into that advertised price. Administration fee, freight and PDI, even detailing fees. So the consumer is aware, so they can know how the dealer actually came up with that final price. But that bottom line absolutely cannot exceed that advertised price. It cannot exceed it.
So I walk in, here's my $19,000, and I want to drive out with that car plus HST and license fees. That's it.
Exactly. So if you see that car advertised for $19,000, you can go into that dealership and expect to pay $19,000 plus HST and licensing.
Okay, good. And OMVIC is around, omvic.ca now?
Yes, so we're omvic.ca, very easy to find us. And actually, we're exhibiting here at the auto show this year, like we have many years. We're down in level 800 South. We have a fabulous exhibit here. I'm sure we'll talk more about the exhibit shortly, but come on by. You can put your feet up. It's a fabulous spot.
Now, next we have Jeff Coy. Well, I always call him Jeff Lant. Lant Insurance is a company that actually will insure your classic car. So you have a, 1930 Duesenberg worth $2 million. Jeff will actually insure it for $1,600. But the reality is it's very, very affordable, correct?
Yes, yeah. We actually do insure the 1927 Duesenberg downstairs in the Cabo Beach
that's just
display.
one there?
Yeah.
I haven't been downstairs yet. So you actually insure the cars that are downstairs? The
Yeah,
Cabo Beach
well,
cars.
the ones that are from Ontario, yeah. There's
Yeah.
some from the Michigan Museum and other museums, but the ones that are down there, yeah, are our clients.
Okay, explain me how it works. Now I have a classic car and I come to you and I say, this car is worth $1.5 million.
Yep.
And you say, let's find out what it's really worth?
Yeah, usually you're talking to someone who just purchased the vehicle. We start there.
Yes.
And then we have resources through our partners at Haggerty that research the value based on current market value. So all the auctions, all the number of sales
Yes.
across North America is tracked in their Haggerty price guide, and that's where we come up to a value depending on the condition. Most people that buy classic cars will tell you, talk an hour about the condition of their vehicle and what it is, and then we get photos and verify it, and away we go. So it's an agreed guaranteed value. So once we discuss the value and we agree on it's guaranteed on your policy, that's what you'll get.
The
in the
one
total
thing I
loss.
didn't understand is, I have an agreed value in the car. It got damaged, but it's not a write-off.
Right.
So what happens now?
Well, now you get paid up to that amount to fix it. If it goes up to that amount, it's a write-off. But
So in other
you're-
words, you would pay up to the value of
Yes.
the agreement?
Yeah.
And if not, then I get to keep the car.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now, it's not expensive. The reason being it's not your primary car?
Right. Right. So these are collector cars, classic cars that are used not as your daily driver.
Right.
That's-
Low mileage.
That said, you can still take it, for a drive anytime you want, visit friends. We just don't want you driving every day down the Don Valley to work in it. That's not what the policy is designed for.
So are there any other restrictions in this sort of scenario?
You must be licensed 10 years,
Okay.
yeah, and have a good driving record, so no more than 2 tickets, and that's basically it. We want
That's
you to
it.
enjoy the car, just not your commuter.
See, I have a 25-year-old Ferrari,
Yep.
which I've driven like twice a year because it's a shit car to drive.
Right.
But the reality is, I can assure that for what? It's minimal.
Yeah, it's based on the value. So, example of use a 60s muscle car, 67 Camaro.
Yes.
You're an old guy like us. Value is $30,000. Will cost you $318 a year.
Fascinating. Fascinating. I love it.
So even if you're younger, you're in your 40s, and same car,
Yeah.
it costs you $330 a year. So it's very affordable, and again, based on the use that you're not driving it.
So the
every-
reasons are not the primary car. It's
Right.
got to be, you have to be licensed at least 10 years
Yeah.
and have a clean driving record.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that. Okay. We're going to talk to Jonathan today. Jonathan, explain to me how you came up with the idea for a car generator.
So I came up with the idea for this product, which is called Car Generator. This thing will power your house. You simply pull this out, attach it to your car, and it'll run your furnace, your fridge, the essentials of your house. You can take it camping. The way I got started with this is I ran a tech company for 20 years.
Yeah.
I sold it. We bought an Airstream. Has anyone ever seen an Airstream? It's like one of those cool silver trailers. We love to travel with it. And I wanted to be able to travel and have power without a generator. So I said, my car is 75% of a generator anyways. So I just needed the last 25%, which is this. And this basically, you can use it for camping, you can use it for powering your house, and when you're done with it, put it away and forget about it. There's no maintenance, no oil changes, no stuff to do, not like the generators that you buy at the store that are really heavy and they smell. The other thing is it's a lot cleaner than a
So
regular
you
generator.
just leave this in the trunk of your car.
Leave it in the trunk of your car, leave it in your furnace room, put it in your garage. We have people that use it at their cottage and their home because it's 16 pounds. Look at that. Just put it in your car and forget about it. Simple. Why buy a generator if you're ready? That's what I said to the Dragons on Dragon's Den in October. Why would you buy a generator if you already own 75% of one in your driveway?
And actually,
right
you
there?
got 2 dragons to come along with you.
2 Dragons and $100,000, and it was fantastic.
I love
it's great.
it. I love it. Trevor, I'd like to talk about the system of your company, which is a co-op. Your company is not really a franchisee, but everybody that is a Crown installer is part of that company, correct?
Yeah, that probably is the most unique thing about our company. We've
Yes.
got a great product, we got a great process, but we really are a people company, and so we're set up not like a franchise. Our dealers that we have don't pay into the company some royalty of what they do, because a lot of our businesses are owned by families. They're mom and pop shops. But now we've exceeded 350 worldwide.
Wow.
And so we're set up a little bit like Home Hardware. Our dealers own the company. So in essence, I've got 350 bosses that I work for. The great part is I get to tell them what to do.
So you're the president of 350 presidents.
Exactly. And the reason it was set up that way was to allow the offering that's going to the consumer to be the best possible offering we could, because sometimes companies get in situations where, because of the way the business is structured and run, is that one, you could be bought out or taken over. And a lot of people have invested, certainly in the early days, their life savings
That's right.
to get into a business. So our president made sure that their investment would be protected, that it wouldn't be taken over by somebody, and that the company would work in the best interest of everybody that invested in the business.
Yeah, and the guy that's spraying your car is the guy that owns the company. So obviously he's going to do a better job than somebody who's just working for somebody.
Yeah, and it does impact, because what somebody does in Scarborough affects the owner in Pickering and Whitby and different areas like that.
I have a question. Somebody emailed in. Hello, Dave, over here.
I was looking for you.
All right, the question is to Trevor. Being the lovely time of the year that it is right now, middle of February, when is the ideal time to rust-proof your car?
About a month and a half from now. As soon as we get into the early spring of the year, when the temperature starts rising and the snow goes down, it starts to warm up. That's when most corrosion occurs. About 75% corrosion occurs in the spring of the year, because that's when it generates the most moisture. So that's the absolute best time of the year to do it. The fact is, if you do it once a year like good maintenance, you'll protect your vehicle, but the absolute best time of the year is in the spring.
Okay, great.
Just quickly on top of that, if you live in a condo, it's spring every morning. I mean, like you
You
come
don't
in
live
and
in my condo. It's not spring every morning.
Yeah, but everything melts,
I
right?
know it does.
So, I mean, if you don't do that, your car's going to rust faster.
You know what the challenge is, and I'll give you an example that happens here in the city of Toronto. Is one of the vehicles that's most susceptible to corrosion is transit buses. And the reason is that in the winter, these vehicles go out and they operate 12, 14, 16 hours a day. So for some reason, their customers want heat put on in the buses, so they heat them up when they're outside when it's 10 below. And then at the end of the day, they bring them in and they wash them, and then they park them inside. And so what happens is they're actually starting the corrosion process each night.
Each night, yeah.
Each night. And that's one of the challenges in maintaining equipment that needs to be on the road for 12 to 18 years.
Love it.
Another question here is for Andy, for Lease Busters.
Yes.
Are you seeing that more and more people are not going for a 4 or 5 year lease? Are they going for a short-term lease?
Short-term leases are way more popular
Why is
today
that?
with the consumer. Less maintenance on the vehicle. You don't have to worry about the maintenance on the vehicle, number one. Number two, you can change over your vehicles a lot more often on a short-term lease. And manufacturers have caught on to that process too. They offer 24-month leases, 27-month leases, right up to 36. They do still offer 48 and 60-month leases for a price point, but short-term leases are by far more popular. You get to drive more vehicles.
One thing I noticed that they'll call you back after 24 months and try and buy your car.
They'll not only call back after 24 months, even before that. They'll call back and say, you know what, I want to put my sports car away for the winter, and I want to pick up a short-term lease just to cover me through for the next 6 months.
Now, I have a question for you, which was, can I order a car? So in other words, I'm looking for a specific vehicle, say a Prius or something like that, and can I put that into your site and you'll flag me when that car comes up?
We do. We have a database of thousands and thousands of people that actually will go online and put their preferences in there of what they're looking for a vehicle. And once a consumer comes in to get out of their lease and they sign in with us, we send that information over to the people that are looking for leases, and vice versa again to our client that has retained us to get out of their lease. We give them that information so the two can connect and move from there.
Okay. Norris, you write for the Wheels section.
I write for Toronto Star Wheels, have for many years.
Yes.
Prior to that, I was on the Globe and Mail, various and sundry other smaller newspapers. And it's a fascinating industry to cover and to do it for the paper that I work for. Wheels, right from the beginning, has covered the automotive industry from the concepts through the design, through manufacturing.
That's right.
Through retail, through competition. Just about everything you would want to find, you'll find in Toronto Star Wheels.
I was reading your article this morning about the F1 car being shown and how they actually did the presentation here.
Well, I think that you're talking about the story that I wrote about Jason Campbell,
Yes, correct.
Who's the general manager of the auto show. His background is Formula One, and if anybody's been fortunate enough to be in a paddock or a garage of a Formula One team, The expression "you can eat off the floor" truly applies to that. McLaren, at one time when Ron Dennis was running the team, they would arrive in Montreal or Monaco or wherever they are, and they would go in, and the first thing they would do is scrape all the paint off the floor and repaint it, and they would go from there. Everything is spick and span, everything is immaculate, everything is tick-tock as far as timing, and Jason Campbell is exactly that way as far as his auto show. So I wrote a column about him preparing for the Formula One launch, and if anybody's missed it, I offer up Toronto Star wheels for you to take a look at it.
Yeah.
But really interesting to watch this guy in action.
It's nice to see from behind the scenes what's actually going on.
Right.
Alrighty, Scott from Omvic. We talk about curbsiders. It's always been a plague in our industry. I think 25% of the ads that are out there are from curbsiders, which are unlicensed dealers. How do you handle that?
We did data mining on Kijiji some years back, and we found that in Ontario, 25% of the ads you'll see on there are placed by a curbsider. And a curbsider is an illegal, unlicensed dealers, and they're in the business of ripping consumers off. They pose as private sellers, go onto Kijiji, and they'll sell vehicles and they'll price them below market value because they're often rebuilt wrecks. They'll go to salvage auctions, fix up the cars for nothing, and then sell them at exorbitant profits. These vehicles are obviously very dangerous vehicles to be driving, and the consumers are completely unsuspecting. It's very unfortunate. So Omvic has very large efforts to combat curbsiding. In fact, it's one of the biggest things we do at Omvic. Last year alone, we laid over 340 charges for curbsiding. Recently, in fact, in January, there was a pair of Markham area curbsiders. They were purchasing vehicles and rolling the odometers back. In some cases, 300 to 400,000 kilometers. Collectively, there was over 22 charges laid for curbsiding. It's quite the feat. Of course, there's still alleged. It hasn't been tested in the court yet, but it's a very, very busy time for us at Omvic, constantly combating curbsiders.
Now, one of the things to protect themselves, consumers should be buying from registered dealers, obviously. And if they do buy from a registered dealer, they have what's basically a guarantee from Omvic. If something goes wrong, that you guys will step up.
Well, consumers could obviously have the choice whether they want to buy privately or from a registered dealer. When a consumer does buy from an Omvic registered dealer, they have access to all-in price advertising, and most importantly, Omvic's compensation fund.
Yes.
So if something does go wrong with a dealer, in particular in one circumstance, when dealers, let's say they fail to discharge a lien and they close down their business. One instance, Omvic actually issued an immediate suspension. It was to a dealer up in Sault Ste. Marie, and those customers were able to go to the compensation fund and get that money back for the unpaid liens as a result of the dealer's actions. If you buy privately, or especially if you buy from a curbsider, you unfortunately do not have access to that protection.
No, you basically have to go to court if you can find the guy who you met at McDonald's to buy the car.
And that's just it, Dave. Yes, you'd have to go to court, and it's a very expensive and lengthy process at the end of the day, whereas with Omvic, it's the safer way to buy. We're with an Omvic registered dealer, sorry.
Right? To become a dealer, it's not a simple process, is it? You basically have to have a criminal record check. You have to have a certain amount of money available. Tell us about that.
So actually, it's not the most difficult process. Omvic has to take its due diligence to ensure that people selling in the industry will operate with something called honesty and integrity. It's actually in our legislation. The Motor Vehicle Dealers Act, Section 6, requires that dealers and salespeople operate in this manner. And the first step to test honesty and integrity is the application process. So for a dealer, of course, for example, you'll be required to submit to a criminal background check. Same with a salesperson. Someone's history can really indicate how they may operate in the future. And with financial records, there's actually, the legislation doesn't have any particular amount one must have in their bank account, but we will take a look at finances to ensure that they're fiscally viable and to ultimately
Where
protect consumers.
Where did the money come from? How much is available? Right?
Absolutely. We will always check where the money came from, potential interested persons in the dealership. We need to dot all of our I's and cross all of our T's before we let someone enter in the industry for sales.
Norris, you had a question?
No, but I'm fascinated with the discussion.
Yeah.
And as I say, it's fascinating. As far as curbsiders, though, I do know people who buy and sell cars as a hobby, who don't do it as a curbsider sort of thing. They do, though, to make a little extra money. How do you determine who the rip-off artists are
Yes.
than somebody who is, as I say, just doing some flipping every now and again to supplement their income?
No, that is a fabulous question. So the threshold is often people think, oh, I can sell maybe 4 cars a year, for example, before it's considered curbsiding. In fact, that's not the case. It's when you're trading in motor vehicles, when you want to make a business out of buying and selling cars, even if it's just a hobby, 3 or 4 cars a year, and you're doing it to make money, side income, you must become registered with OMVIC because you are selling to the public and it is your business. If you're selling your own personal vehicle, however, that's totally legal. You are welcome to sell your car and OMVIC won't come knocking. It's until you start trading in them.
What if I buy and sell my own car 4 or 5 times a year, though?
Not the first time I've heard that, Norris.
Actually, they trace phone numbers. That's what they do. They follow the phone numbers.
The only reason I asked this
You're
is
turning red, by the way.
this is it's not me.
Okay.
But it's I have a cousin in Detroit, and every time I go to visit him, he's got a great long driveway, and he's got pickup trucks in there, and he's got sedans in there, he's got SUVs in there. I say, what are these? He says, I'm just doing a little business.
Sounds like a curbsider if we were in Ontario to me. Literally right on the curb of his driveway.
Okay, we have a question for Jeff. Say, for example, we have a vehicle that's 55 Chevy, just for an argument's sake, and we had an accident. What happens? How does it work?
Well, we have a very unique, specialized claims department that only does claims for classic cars. So that's the first place we go, is to our claims adjusters that are specialists in that, and we have special appraisers, damage appraisers, that deal specifically with classic cars. You choose the shop where you want to go. We send our appraiser out to appraise the
So,
damage.
now, hang on a second. I can choose the shop where I want to go.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So you choose the shop. A lot of people already have shops that they've been dealing with that partly restored the car or done some work on it. So we want you to take it back to where you trust, and then we send our damage appraisers out to go over the estimate, and then you're paid out or the vehicle's fixed. Now we do have one very unique coverage that we're the only ones in Canada offering it. Is called Cherish Salvage. So generally, if your car's a write-off, there's a salvage amount. So there's so much damage. There's a $20,000 car. There's $10,000 damage. We wrote it off. You have to bid to buy that car back. So with our Cherish Salvage coverage, you not only get the $20,000, but you get to keep the car.
Wow. Okay.
And
and
it's-
now
it's
you can
very-
start the restoration process on your own time.
Right, because even if the car is, a total, so it's just white, they still may want it for parts, or have a friend that wants it for parts. They want to keep the car in the hobby because once it's gone to the wreckers, they
gone.
just part it out and it's gone. So
So now, do we look for original equipment parts? Like when say, for example, I've gone to the shop and we've got the thing. Have you got an ability to find the original pieces?
we try. We
You
try.
have?
Yeah. We have our damage appraisers will source all over North America to find it, but as the years go by, it's less and less to find original parts. So
That's right.
they manufacture old parts. They remanufacture parts for old cars. And
So
that's a lot of times what you're
does
gonna
that
get.
affect the price of the policy? Is the rarity of the car? Say I have a Bugatti Atlanta, and that's it's worth $5 million. You're never going to find parts for that car because there are only 20 or
True.
30 in the world.
True,
right?
but the policy is based on the value. So yes, you're going to pay more for $1.5 million, $2 million car than
Right.
you are $30,000, of course. So, but the premiums are based on the value of the car, the guaranteed value.
And the average guy, what, $25,000, $30,000
Yeah,
classic
our
car?
average classic car is between $25,000, $30,000. Our average premium is $300. We insure
You can't go
probably
wrong.
60,000 cars here in Ontario.
Fascinating. And how long you been around?
We've been around 41 years in March.
That's right, because we
Yeah.
just had a 40th anniversary.
Yeah.
Right?
So.
Fascinating stuff. So
Dave?
classic car insurance, yeah.
Dave, can I ask a question to Jeff?
Sure.
What is constitute year for a classic car? Is it 20 years, 30 years,
Good
40
question.
years?
We have 3 categories. So we do have what we call an exotic category,
How's our
0 to
timing?
15 years
How's our
old.
time?
So again, that's a little more special. You're looking at supercars, cars that aren't driven very much, very special editions. Then the next category is special interest, which is 15 to 25 years old, and those cars are becoming more popular now as the demographic is shifting to a younger collector. A lot of them are getting 15-year-old cars, or you got the guy with the '67 Mustang and he wants a '90s Mustang. When they bought back the replica. So, and then the next category is 25 and older. So that's the kind of the real classic car, and that's where the prices are the best too.
So
And motorcycles as well?
No, we don't do
No
motorcycles.
vintage motorcycles? No.
So
fortunately.
what is it? Is it 15 years makes it a historic vehicle?
No,
As far as licensing is concerned?
25 for licensing.
Is it 25 years? Sir?
Yeah.
So that's not that long. It's like a
But
a 90s car.
We don't require it to be licensed historically. We don't require historic plates.
No.
That's just a decision that the consumer makes. It makes no difference on the insurance.
So if you have a 95 car, that's already 25 years old,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's
It
crazy.
kind of boggles the
Yeah.
mind. Crazy. Alrighty. Jonathan, one of the questions that we had was, can I damage my car if it's idling for 30 hours?
The answer is no.
All right.
As you said before, that's actually one of the first questions that Arlene asked on the Dragon's Den. She said, will it damage or void my warranty? The answer is no, because lots of cars idle, and in fact, a lot of the new cars only have, especially the electric vehicles, they only charge by the motor running at a certain speed anyways. So, and in terms of the power output, we published a video on our website, www.cargenerator.com, and it was very interesting. We went and put an amp meter on the battery and the alternator to see how much power was being drawn when we turned on the heated seats, the fan, lights and things like that. That pulled about 70 amps.
Wow.
Then we took it and we ran it with Car Generator, one of these guys here, and ran the home furnace, and it used about 30 amps. So that gives you an idea. So running your home furnace uses about a third or maybe half of the amount of power that your car would use just starting it up, running your lights. So there's no damage to the car, there's no risk to the car, it's not going to burn out your alternator, it's just using power, and we've got mechanisms in here that will safeguard you from pulling too much power out of your car. So
Is there a difference in cars if I have a little car like a Kia or a big car like a Mercedes truck?
There is. So littler cars like maybe a Honda Civic, you're going to get maybe 500 to 700 watts out of as an example.
Yeah.
A bigger car like an SUV, like we've got a Mercedes SUV, you can pull easily 1,000 watts out of that easily. And then bigger ones like the dual alternators. We had a guy on your show on Saturday. He's got a big 3,500 dually pickup truck. He could pull like so much power out of that car, it's crazy. So this thing can really power the core essentials of your house. It's not going to run your hot tub, your walk-in wine cellar, and your washer and dryer, but the most important thing is your furnace. When the power goes out, it's cool, it's exciting for the first 2 hours. The kids shout hooray, you pull out flashlights, but then the house starts to get cold, and then you really know like you don't have power and it's not fun.
Okay, so
with
now
this-
the power went out and I go and have to disconnect the fridge or I shut everything off. What do I do before I put that on?
Yeah, there's actually a great video on our website, cargenerator.com, and we actually show one of our customers that live in the Kingsway, Bruce and Barb, basically go out, attach this to the front of your car. It takes about a minute. Run an extension cord down to your furnace and plug it in, and that's all. And if you want to run more appliances, you can do that, or you can put a fancier transfer switch so you can just throw a switch and more things will come on. But at the most basic level, what people want to make sure that they have running is your furnace. If your furnace runs and your whole house is warm, you can go a long ways. You can keep your fridge cold, and it's no hassle. I tell people when a storm's coming in, the one thing to do, go out and fill your car with gas. The next day, if the power doesn't go out, you're great. You're a winner. Drive away with a full tank of gas. If you have to hunker down, this guy, Car Generator, will run your furnace for 50 to 70 hours if you need.
I have to tell you a funny story. A friend of mine has a generator, but he doesn't have any gas in the garage. And so he tells me when the power goes out, he's going to the gas station to fill it up. And I'm going, but the power's out. He goes, do I have the gas station? So the reality is you're not keeping any gasoline around the house,
No.
which is not as healthy as it could be.
That's how I started, actually. I bought big gas cans and kept them in the garage, and I thought I'll fill them up. Now I don't need to because I've got 100 liters of gas sitting right there. It's fresh in my driveway. Why would I want to go and fill up a bunch of
And
cans?
the last question I was going to ask you is, how much power does the house actually need to run?
This is a really fun question, actually. So a lot of people, the armchair critics, before I went on Dragon's Den, they said, what can I run off 1,000 watts? So we have a fun game for you. Go to your hydrometer outside, take a picture, turn off most of the stuff you don't need in your house, go back 1 hour later. If the number increased by 1, you just used 1,000 watts, and that's all you needed. And it's a really good gauge because a lot of people way overbuy a generator. They call an electrician. The electrician says, you need this massive 20,000 kilowatt generator. You know what? Maybe if you want to run everything all at the same time and host family dinner, and cook and wash your washing. But the reality is if you can run with the essentials of your house without the hassle of a generator, honestly, we have people that already have generators that buy this because it's a backup to your backup. If your car starts, you have power.
Love it. Question for Trevor. Crown is actually sprayed on in an oil form, right? It has no solvents, I understand, but you do spray it in oil. How does that work?
Well, the oil is actually our base of our product. So it's not an actual oil spray. We have a chemical inhibiting package that actually bonds to metal to do the rust inhibiting, but the oil is the carrier to get it there. So sometimes where you see you'll have a little residual dripping, so to speak. Really what it is, it's the oil. But what we use is what's called a white petroleum. So it's very much like the base stock of Vaseline would be, right? And so what happens is, so it's a very pure product, and the product is blended much like you would take any kind of additives. It's heated up. When it's heated properly, then basically the product itself bonds together. And that's why heat's so important in our application.
So we actually heat the product before we spray it on.
We do, because it's a little bit like when you're soldering copper pipe, right? When you've got solder, to get it to suck into the joints, right, you heat up the joint and it draws it in. Metal's the same way. Metal has pores in it. And so when the product's warm, it'll actually creep and penetrate and actually go into the pores of metal.
Question, just emailed in.
Yes.
Typically, everybody's got a busy day. They're running around like crazy during the week. How long should they want to know, how long does it take for me to get my car crowned?
Well, if I'm doing it for them, it'll take about 3 hours. But if you go to somebody who's...
I'm glad you didn't look at me like that either.
No. Somebody who's trained, normally most vehicles will do in about an hour.
Okay.
It depends how many technicians are working on it, and certain vehicles just take significantly more time. Like there's some vehicles that are out there on the market that have a lot of boxed in sections, and so to be able to access them takes a lot more time. Minivans, pickup trucks, because of removing the rear taillights, take more time. And then usually anybody driving a BMW takes more time because they're just fussier with it. And they want
probably
us to
have more time too.
Yeah.
So once my car is crowned, generally how long should I wait until I get my car washed?
Well, we're actually going to wash it for you right after we're done the application. So
Very nice. Lunch too?
Lunch too.
Very nice of you.
Yeah. You know what it is because it's not designed to adhere to the paint. It's
Okay.
not there to protect the paint. And so a big part of consumers' view of any type of service is how clean their vehicle is when it leaves a shop. And so, we started washing vehicles back in the late 80s. It used to be that the thought was when you did rust protection, you couldn't wash a vehicle or you had to drive down a dusty road, and that's what would kind of soak up the product. But washing a vehicle is really important, so we do it right after the application.
All right, great. Over to you, Dave.
Okay. So one of the things that I had a black Kia, and I had it crowned.
Uh-oh, here we go. This
the
is down in
summer,
West
it started
Virginia.
To drip. And you were telling me that was a good thing.
It is a good thing. The reason is you think about it, if you've ever touched something metal when the sun's on it, right?
Yeah.
It's very hot. Well, it's the thing is that although we only use, say, take a Honda Civic, we probably only use about 2.5 liters of product to spray the entire vehicle. But what happens is when the metal heats up, it actually activates the product and it'll start to creep and penetrate.
So it creeps.
Right? Because the product doesn't dry up, it doesn't set up, right? So the importance of it is that you need it to remain liquid. One of the reasons is a big part of our application is on electrical to displace moisture. We make it for a number of different manufacturers. One of the main reasons is to draw it away from terminals and prevent them from corroding due to moisture.
Yeah, people don't realize that with all these electronics, they're all running at 5 volts. And that if you have any corrosion at all, where the wire turns green, you've got a serious issue. So spraying it actually protects the electronics.
Exactly.
I love it. Okay, Andy from Leasebusters, explain me how the site works. I get on the site, what do I do when I want to buy a car?
When you go to leasebusters.com, of course, there's you go in through our auto site, and then you can log in to get out of your vehicle or get into a vehicle. So if you're looking to get into a vehicle and access 3,000 to 5,000 vehicles across the country, you can do it through there. And then through our sorting features, you can go if you're looking for a pickup truck, if you're looking for a hybrid, if you're looking for a sedan, coupe, ultra luxury vehicle, along those lines. Also on the other side, if you're looking to get out of the lease, that's where you go in and enter the portal.
Now, some of the sites say, I will give you $5,000 to take my car. Why is that?
Sometimes people want to get out of their vehicles a lot quicker. Sometimes they've gone to the dealership and they've given the good news that unfortunately the vehicle is not worth what they thought it was.
Negative equity.
Negative equity, and they want to mitigate that negative equity as much as possible, and that's what we're able to assist them in doing on our website.
So he gives you, say, $5,000 to take over the lease. That reduces your payment down to whatever.
It doesn't really reduce the lease payment. The lease stays intact because it's a contract, but you can pay your credit cards off with that $5,000, or you can go on a trip with your wife for that $5,000, or whatever you want to do and apply that $5,000.
When I sell my lease through your site, do I still have to stay on as a security, or does everything transfer to the new owner?
The lien is transferred over to the new ownership because they have to put a credit application in, the new client does, with the original manufacturer to get approved on that lease. So their credit's got to be as good, if not better, than the people that actually have the lease.
Now, you put the buyer and the seller together, and that's when you step out, or?
That is correct, yes. We're an advertising medium for the consumer.
So you put the buyer and the seller together, they work out their deal, right? And you're out of the picture except for advice.
That is correct. Upfront advice and then after the fact advice as well, because they, through a transaction, they may have some questions and we're able to assist them because we do have a full staff of people in the office doing that.
We have a question here for Scott from Omvic. We keep hearing on the radio and reading that there is a cooling off period once you buy a car. What does that mean?
I'm very glad that question was asked actually, because
We have a smart audience sometimes.
I was just,
huh?
that's
Yeah, they're
very
good.
impressive. In vehicle sales in Ontario, so when you go to a dealership, you buy in a car and you sign that contract, this sale is final. There is no cooling off period. So cooling off period is basically a time where you can think about your purchase and then potentially return it or undo a contract. With vehicle sales, that does not exist in Ontario. As soon as you sign that dotted line, you have just entered into a legally binding contract. So that's why you have to be absolutely certain that you want to purchase a vehicle before you sign the contract, because you won't have the opportunity to change your mind
So if
after.
you take a picture of the signed agreement and then something goes wrong with the car, say a week later, you go back and that person's no longer there, then what can somebody do?
So if you did sign a contract and you did have an issue with the vehicle that you purchased, if it was from an Omvic registered dealer, you can call Omvic 1-800-943-6002.
That number again is?
1-800-943-6002. So if you run into an issue, you're welcome to contact our complaints and inquiries team.
Okay.
They're a very useful team, and they can actually negotiate with the dealer on your behalf to get a resolution. Now, there is one thing I want to note. In Ontario, the only person who can force someone to return money or force someone to do something is a judge. But to give you an idea, our complaint handlers alone returned $960,000 strictly through mediation with dealers. So consumers calling in with issue maybe about needed repairs to the vehicle, an issue with a contract, $960,000 just through negotiation.
You know, they should add something to that, where a guy goes and works at a dealership number 1, and then goes to dealership number 2 and tries to get a better price. He's actually bought 2 cars, and dealership number 1 has no obligation to give him back any deposit.
Absolutely. So in that circumstance, and of course we encourage consumers to never sign 2 contracts because you've just promised to purchase 2 vehicles there, but dealers have a few options when a consumer does want to back out of a deal after they've signed a contract. Of course, they can cancel it and refund the deposit as a gesture of goodwill. Their other option is to claim damages. So let's say I purchased a vehicle from you, Dave. You're a registered dealer, and I changed my mind after the fact. But as a part of that contract, I asked you to tint the windows for me, and I left a $1,000 deposit. You got those windows tinted. It cost you $300, and I've changed my mind. You're allowed to claim those damages from my $1,000 deposit and then refund the rest. Another example of what we call a liquidated damage is getting another safety for a vehicle. That's common in used cars.
Right.
Yep. So, of course, though, if OMVIC was involved, we would ask the dealer for proof of the damages because they have to be reasonable. You can't simply claim that entire deposit. It's got to be reasonable.
You know, and one point we should talk about is be specific on where you're going to get your credit, because if you've got a dealer shopping your credit through 4 or 5 different banks, you actually affect your credit rating.
Yes, that's entirely possible. So sometimes what can happen is a dealer may send your credit application to multiple different lenders
That's right,
to try to obtain credit. And when that credit application is read over and over and submitted over and over again, it looks like you're constantly shopping for new credit. And that actually could decrease your credit rating going forward.
I heard five points for every time there was an application.
Depends on what credit agency's reviewing your credit for you, but absolutely it could be 5 points. You got to be careful. You got to know where your credit app is going.
Yeah.
Last minute of play in this period.
Oh, God. So last question. It was for Lant, and my question is, how do I start the process? I've got an old car, and I need to get it on the road. I just finished it. How do I start the process with you?
Well, there's 2 options. You can give our office a call. We can do it over the phone, or you can go on our website, landinsurance.ca. You can get a quote within about 30 seconds and apply right there.
So you would quote, and wouldn't you come out and see the car?
No.
And they don't have to
Nope.
send you pictures?
They have to send pictures, yeah. But
So-
yeah, they can send pictures, but most people have pictures right on their phone and they'll email them to you right there.
Fascinating. Didn't think it was that simple. I
Yeah.
thought you'd have to come out, inspect the car, see what it was. And so when we do a negotiated price or a negotiated settlement, we
Yeah.
can do that automatically?
Yes, yeah. For the guaranteed
Fascinating.
value, yes. Yeah.
And how many claims do you have? None. No, I bet
Too
you-
many is always the answer.
Not too many. Because people will actually cherish the car that they're
Yeah.
doing,
yeah,
right?
Yes.
So
So,
it's-
for the most part, the claims are very low, yeah. Landinsurance.ca.
Yeah, landinsurance.ca, OMVIC.
omvic.ca, and also please come visit us at the booth here at the Auto Show.
Where are you located?
Level 800 in the South Building, right in the very bottom. Take every escalator you possibly can until you're in the basement. And come sit at what we call the OMVIC Academy, a comfortable area where you can learn your rights about all-in price advertising and the important manufacturer exemption, manufacturer ads, so the OEMs, the people who build the cars, don't have to advertise all-in prices, only dealers. But come learn about curbsiders, the difference between buying from a dealer and privately, and even extended term loans and negative equity, which was briefly
I
touched
love
on.
that.
Yes.
Norris, you're on Twitter because I get your tweets.
I'm on Twitter. I'm on the star.com/autos, wheels.ca, just about any website you can think of.
You're a busy guy.
And you're over time.
Next.
And you're doing stuff over here, too.
Yes, as a matter of fact, 2, 4, 7, sometimes at noon,
Yeah.
Auto Show Live.
Right. You have
4
your own
times
stage?
a day. We have debates, we have interviews, we have roundtables, all automotive oriented.
I love it. Lease Busters.
Leasebusters.com,
Right.
1-888-357-2678.
Right. So it says French, English. Click the English, and away you go.
La Belle Province is good too.
I love it. Crown is
Crown.com,
crown.com. And how many dealers in Canada?
260,
And in the States now?
45.
And you have in Europe?
22.
That's
It's a game
fascinating.
show here.
I love it, yeah.
How many in South Africa? Australia?
None.
Okay, we're working
But
on
Florida, I was looking at Florida.
It's still open
It's
for
still
you.
open, I know. You know what rusts in Florida? Airplanes. Apparently, that's the biggest problem is the salt water on aluminum aircraft. So that's something you should be getting into. And last but definitely not least, Jonathan, what's your website?
www.cargenerator.com.